Hi, and welcome to the PEPP Story Live show. And tonight we're going to be moving on to looking at speech structure. Just exactly how do you structure the speech so that it makes sense and is memorable? So, welcome to tonight's show. And tonight I'm going to be talking about speech structure. How do you structure a speech and put some structure to it? And there are a variety of different ways that people use, but I'm going to particularly focus on one very well-known method of structuring a speech, which was a concept put together about 100 years ago. And Mr. Jowl went to a lay preachers conference in Birmingham, and there was a competition going on for the preachers, and this veteran speaker regularly won. And after the show, he went up to the old veteran lay preacher and said, "How do you do it? How do you create such inspiring speeches?" And the old guy said, "Well, I take my text and I break it up into three. First, I tell them what I'm going to tell them. Then I tell them. Then I tell them what I told them." That's a really powerful process. And that has been quoted, multiple times over the last 100 years. People have focused around it. And we're going to look at that particular structure. Now, this is all about purpose, experience, passion, and performance. That's the five elements. Purpose, experience, passion, performance, and story. The five elements that have to be there to make a great speech. And they're always there. It's fairly easy. So we looked a lot about purpose in the last couple of evenings, talking about the opening and how you can bring people in and getting your message across. So we've got to remember we've got this one key message. That's our purpose. That's our focus. And now we're going to move on and essentially the content of the speech. We've looked a little bit at the tell them what you're going to tell them. That's the introduction. And then we've actually got to tell them. And this is the content of the speech. And it's quite a big chunk of what's going on. It's probably 80-90% of what you're going to say is in the content. In terms of what people will remember afterwards, it's probably a lot less. They're going to remember your message, but they're probably not going to remember a lot. They might remember some stories, and that's why we've got to look at how we can make this work, because this is where people get it all wrong. And what happens is that so many people think that what they've got to do is tell everything they know. God, no, please don't. Back again, about 100 years ago, Dale Carnegie was the great teacher of public speaking, how to win friends and influence people. But he wrote on public speaking, and the Dale Carnegie courses are primarily about public speaking. And Carnegie said that there needs to be something in the order of a 40-to-1 ratio between what you know and what you tell the audience. And you think about this. If I said to you, look, I just want you to get up and do a 10-minute talk about your life. And if you join a Toastmasters club, it's actually not 10 minutes, it's 7 minutes. And you've got to introduce yourself and tell them about who you are and what your life's about. And it's a sort of, draw on your experience, tell us about who you are. You've got 5 minutes. Now, I've been jotting some notes down because I'm writing a couple of books at the moment. I've got thoughts about writing something which is a bit more about my life. And I started just jotting down all the years, and I thought, I'll write a few notes about every year. Whoa, what happens? What happens is that as you write one thing down, it reminds you about something else. And then you read something, think, oh, God, yeah, I did that. And before you know where you are, it's just gone out of control. Huge amounts of information. And you can't share all that. It's just not possible. And, doesn't matter how good a speaker you are, you're not going to hold an audience's attention talking that whole process through, all of your life, all of the minutiae of what's happening. So we concentrate it down, and we concentrate it into little bits, the highlights of our life. And that's really what we're trying to do here. We're going to take this huge body of knowledge and experience that you've accumulated and hone it down to those little bits of information that you need in order to get your message across. That's all we're trying to do. So this is the speech structure that we're going to try and look at. Opening, body, conclusion. Tell them what you're going to tell them. Tell them what you told them. Now, we've looked at introduction, so I'm going to move around from that. That was the basically sell the speech. And the whole idea of the introduction is just to say, hey, this is going to be a great journey. Come with me. You're going to enjoy this. And that's the way in which we, go back to have a look at last night if you need to go back on that one. But what you need to get is your one message, and make sure this is clear. Now, don't leave the message to the end. One of the things I learned, I was a journalist for quite a long time. I wrote lots of feature articles, about 700 or 800 of them. And one of the things I learned very early on was don't leave the goodies to the end. We have this thing we want to, big surprise, we'll lead up to this. But the problem is, particularly with something like an article, most people don't get to the end. It's like books, particularly non-fiction books, people don't get to the end. It's okay if it's a fiction story, then you want the big reveal at the end. That's absolutely fine in fiction stories. But when you're dealing with, business speeches about, non-fiction ideas, you need to get information up front. People need to know why is this exciting? Why should I be here? So what you've got to do is get the message up. If you read a newspaper article, you'll see that the main punchline comes in the first paragraph. It's all there. And then you open up with more and more information about how we got to that point. But the end story. 3 people died in an accident. Oh, what happened? And then we go through the whole process. We don't lead up to and then give the punchline. The same with speeches. You need to open up very quickly with what this is all about, what you're going to get, what's the payoff for this. And then you can go through how we get to the payoff. So, introduction, you got your title. You can get your message into your title. You can get your message in the introduction as you're introduced, as we saw yesterday. You put the message into your opening, and you've got the whole tell them what you're going to tell them sorted out. Now we're going to tell them. Now, here's my suggestion. 3 key points, 3 stories. If you have a look on the internet for Steve Jobs' 2005 speech, it's had about 11 million views. And I was just reminding myself of it and had a look at it earlier on. It's a very, very simple speech. It's a Stanford commencement speech where Steve Jobs basically told everybody that, he dropped out of college. But he just started the speech off. He said 3 stories. That's all it's going to be. I'm going to tell you 3 stories. And it was a 15-minute speech. It's had 11 million views. And it's an interesting speech. Not brilliantly delivered, to be perfectly honest. He was reading his notes a lot of the time. But it was entertaining. It grabbed you. You wanted to listen to it. You wanted to find out what were these 3 stories. So, and you can play around with this. It doesn't have to be the same. Lots of people use different structures. But 3 key points, 3 stories. And I would strongly recommend that you try to find 3 stories. No matter what it is, find stories. If there's stories from your life, all the better. Sometimes that's not possible. Sometimes it has to be stories from somewhere else. And I know that some speeches are going to be, delivering financial reports and things, but even there, you can bring stories into it. And we'll look at that later in the process over the next, only 2 more weeks left. So what sorts of things can they be? 3 key facts that you might want to deliver. 3 big moments. I do a talk called Extraordinary Moments, and I talk about 3 moments in my life when my life was sent careering off in different directions. There are actually more than 3 I've got, but I pick 3 that's suitable to a particular audience to tell that story. And it's really a story about understanding that tiny, almost insignificant things happen that knock us into a completely new direction in our lives. And we need to be ready for them so that we can grasp them, because sometimes it happens, you look back and you think, oh God, I missed that. And it was only there for a fleeting moment and you missed it. So you've got to always be prepared for little things that can subtly give you an opportunity to take your life in a completely new direction. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, but sometimes the bad things turn out to be good. But these are all, this is all material. Every time now something bad happens, you think, whoa, good material for a story, because normal stuff, just going on the normal way, that isn't exciting. Stories, we're going to be doing a lot more about stories later. 3 important lessons you learned in life, 3 important lessons you want to share, 3 steps to get to somewhere. Can you break something down to 3 steps? And bear in mind, you can sometimes do 3 steps and then you can 3 big steps, and then you can have many steps inside or small bits of other information, but you've got 3 key points. I don't know what it is about the 3, but we remember things in 3s much more easily than we do trying to remember whole huge big lists. 3 just seems to work. If you go past 3, and I found this, I've got my PEPP story approach, and I've had to create an acronym because it was fairly clear that people weren't going to remember a list of 5 things. So PEPP story, PEPP story, purpose, experience, passion, performance, and story. And I keep repeating it because I know that people won't remember it. But today we're talking about experience, and this is another thing that's worth thinking about. The E for experience. It's the big difference in the PEPP bit. Think about that letter E. And when you draw that E out, you've got 1 downstroke, 1 clear message, 3 points. So I always do it when I'm thinking about a speech. Just write down a letter E in the middle of a page. And then just write down the one side on the back of the side of it, just write down, this is my message. This is the message I want to get. This is what I want people to remember. Even a phrase, a statement, a sentence. What is it you want them to remember? That's going into your introduction. It's going into your opening. It's the key message. It's going into the conclusion. That's going to be there all the way through. Now, what are the 3 key points I want to get across? Now, you might do a before, change, and after type approach. 3 highlights that took me on this direction. 3 key things to remember. You can use an acronym, use all sorts of things, but just think about these 3 points. This is the 3 points I want to make. 3 big, statements of fact. 3 lots of statistics. You play with it. Whatever's the content of your speech that drives your message, that's what you're looking for. So, and then we come to the end. Tell them what you told them. This is your conclusion. This is where you wrap things up. Essentially, you're coming back to the introduction, back to your opening, with a different approach. You might have another story which helps to seal the whole thing together related to your big message, but this is where you reinforce the message, leave a phrase that pays. That's a common comment that I learned from the United States. Have you got a phrase that pays? A simple statement you can get people to remember and to lock onto, something easy to remember, something that summarizes the whole talk, that will instantly take you back into remembering it. I remember a great speaker, blind speaker in America. He used to, his main conference program was that he used to not speak. He used to go to a conference. They'd pay him to come along, listen to the speakers. And then he went up on stage and wrote a song while he was listening to the speaker. And he would write a song and play and sing his song about what the speaker had just spoken about and summarize the speech. Brilliant. Bearing in mind, he can't make any notes. The whole thing is happening in his head. So one year he actually was asked to deliver a speech, and he did. And he was coached to help to do it. And he said, the magic begins when the speaker listens. And he structured his speech into 3 elements. The magic begins when the speaker listens was the title. He did something about that in his introduction, about growing up as a blind boy, unable to see things and having to learn to explore the world through what he heard, through what he heard coming back to him. So he relied all the time on listening to understand what was happening, to understand the world. So he emphasized the importance and why listening was so important to him. And his whole first third of the talk was talking about listening and some of the things that happened to him as a result of having to listen. Some very humorous, some a little bit challenging. Then he got somebody in the people up from the audience. He did some interaction with them and started to demonstrate some ways of improving their listening. And then the third thing he did was to get 3 people to tell them about someone who had been hugely influential in their lives. And he just sung a song that encapsulated that person and those little stories. Now, I heard that speech 20 years ago. I can remember it now as if I was still sitting there watching him deliver it. An awesome speech. I remember the message, and this year I've set my word for the year as listen, because I've realized I've slipped. I'm not listening as much as I used to, so I need to listen a bit more. So can you see how that story is still inspiring and motivating me? Because the moment I set my word for the year as listen, it brought back Ken Medema's speech. And I thought, yeah, that's I heard that a long time ago and I've stopped listening. I've got to stop using it. And this is what you're looking for, a conclusion, a call to action, especially if you're trying to persuade people to do something. You've got to make it very clear. What have they got to do next? Have they got to buy your book, come and see you, send you an email, go to your website, come to the back of the room, give you your business card? Yeah, whatever. What is it that you need the person to do as a result of your speech? What's the action that is going to make the message work? Okay, so there's the structure for the speeches. There are other structures you can use. Some speeches are, very passionate speeches about someone facing, great challenges in their life. Feel the fear and do it anyway. Story about, someone's facing cancer. I've heard people talking about climbing Mount Everest, traveling around the Cape, traveling, sailing around the world. And these are like heroes' journeys, they're quests. And it's a different structure, a different approach to the story. And all of these are different ways in which you can structure talks. But by far, the most common, the most effective, and the easiest one, particularly if you're developing your skills, is to use that simple 3-point stage: the opening, body, conclusion. Tell them what you're going to tell them, then tell them what you told them. And if you work to that structure, you'll have a speech that really, really works. Clear message, 3 key points, call to action. It really works. Join me tomorrow for day, this is day 13. It's day 14. I've miscounted my days. So don't forget, if you need some coaching and some help to put speech together, to do a TEDx talk, whatever, just contact me. Email me at ricky@rickyarundel.com. Happy to set up a 30-minute coaching session, introductory session, completely free, to see if I can help. I'm in the middle at the moment of doing my website, so that you'll be able to go to the website and click in there and book a 30-minute slot just to talk to me. So, hope you've enjoyed today, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. It's getting very cold at the moment. We're all still stuck inside, going mad. So, here's some ways to think. And bear in mind, I'm doing this as a bit of a sort of challenge for myself. Go online, make myself put something together and do a show for. I thought it was going to be 10 minutes. It's turned out to be near 20 minutes every time. I'm going to get a few guests towards the end of the month to talk to them. If you're looking at trying to improve your ability to present and speak, one of the simplest ways to do it is to do exactly what we've done. Set yourself a 5-day challenge, a 7-day challenge, a 30-day challenge, or whatever, and just go online. The tools are easy to get hold of. You can use also. I'm using StreamYard. You can use BeLive. You can just use simple Facebook Live and just go live on there. Have a go. Try. It's a way of improving your ability on speaking. You can play with it. Just do it to a private group. Get some friends in to have a look and give you some feedback. Teach them how to do the feedback so they make it constructive. Anyway, Hope you've enjoyed today. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Take care.